Hello, my name is Brian Gleason. I'm a developer on the IBM Cloud team, and in today's video I'm going to demonstrate how to use private workers in a delivery pipeline on IBM Cloud. By default, the jobs in a delivery pipeline are run using IBM's public shared infrastructure. However, in some scenarios, your delivery pipeline may require access to internal or private resources. In these cases, you can use the private worker tool to run pipeline jobs on your own Kubernetes cluster. To illustrate this, let's consider an example use case. Greenwell Bank are a large international financial institution. They already use the delivery pipeline in IBM Cloud to build and deploy a banking web app, but they want to add an extra step to that pipeline. Whenever a pipeline run completes, they want to send an email with the test results to their DevOps team. This requires access to an internal Greenwell database in order to fetch the list of email addresses for the team. But due to security and privacy concerns, this database cannot be accessed publicly. Greenwell do have their own Kubernetes cluster, however, which has access to the private database. And so it makes sense for Greenwell to leverage the private worker tool to run their new job on their own cluster. So let's take a look at how to set it up. Here we have Greenwell's existing toolchain that manages building and deploying their web app in production. The source code is hosted in a private Git repo, and the pipeline deploys the app to their Kubernetes cluster. Now let's add a new tool to this toolchain. We can select Delivery Pipeline Private Worker from the list of available tools, enter a name, and we also need to create a Service ID API key to be used for authentication. With those two fields filled in, we can create our integration. Now let's open up our new private worker integration. So setup is not quite complete yet. As you can see here, the list of workers in the registered worker pool is empty. We need to carry out some additional steps on the Greenwell Kubernetes cluster itself. So let's go over to the Getting Started page. There are 3 manual command line kubectl commands that need to be carried out, and they require admin level access to the Kubernetes cluster. So let's copy the first command and jump over to my command line, where I'm already logged in to the Kubernetes cluster, ready to run commands. So paste the command, hit enter. This command installs the necessary support for private worker management on the cluster. And if I run the kubectl get services command again, you can see that it's added 3 additional services to the cluster. So that's step 1. For step 2, we register a new worker in the cluster. So copy the second command, back to command line, paste, and you'll notice on the command that the very last parameter is the name of the worker we want to create, which you can customize to your heart's content. It looks like everything has completed as expected, but just to be sure, the third command will verify that for us. And there you can see that our Greenwell Worker 1 is created and registered successfully on our cluster. This is now also reflected back in the overview page of our private worker integration, where we can see the active status of our worker. Now that we have finished configuration of our cluster and private worker, we can make use of the private worker in our delivery pipeline. Here is Greenwell's pipeline with a build and then a deploy stage. So let's add a new stage to the pipeline. Let's call this stage test. It takes input from the build. We're going to add a test job, which is going to be a simple script to run the end-to-end tests script and then run the notify script, which is the one responsible for sending out the email to the DevOps team. And then we go over to the Workers tab, and as you can see, the default is to use the IBM Managed Shared Workers in our region. But now we can switch over to using the private worker that we created, and then we can hit save. So let's run the pipeline with our new test stage in place. Now that our pipeline run is complete, we can see that everything ran and passed successfully. So let's take a look at the logs for the test stage. And here we can see in the first line that our job was run on our private worker. We can also see that all of the tests were successful and the DevOps team got the test results sent out to them by email. So everything here looks good. This was just one example to demonstrate how to use the new private worker tool in a delivery pipeline on IBM Cloud. Greenwell were able to create a private worker integration, set up a private worker on their own Kubernetes infrastructure, and run a pipeline job on their cluster. This allowed the pipeline job to access sensitive personnel information from a private Greenwell database. For more information on private workers, consult the documentation using the first link on screen here. If you run into any problems, you can head over to the IBM Developer Answers forum to search for a solution or post your own question. Alternatively, you can join the Cloud DevOps at IBM Slack channel to post your questions, where you can get responses directly from the IBM Dev team, including myself. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.